The night before my wedding, 3 men knocked on my door at midnight. I knew I should have turned them away. Instead, I let them in. My name is Judith, and 24 hours ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. The perfect bride-to-be. The daughter who made all the right choices. The woman who said yes to the safe man, the stable future, the life everyone expected me to live. I was wrong about all of it. My father built his empire in real estate. Towers of glass and steel that pierce the Los Angeles skyline. My mother collects charity galas like other women collect jewelry. They gave me everything. Private schools, European summers, a trust fund that could buy small countries. What they never gave me was a choice. Tomorrow, I marry Richard Whitmore III. Harvard Law, family money older than California itself, a jawline that photographs well at political fundraisers. He proposed with his grandmother's ring in front of 200 people at the Bel Air Country Club. The crowd applauded. I said yes because the silence would have been worse. Now, here in this borrowed villa in the Hollywood Hills, surrounded by wedding gifts I never wanted and a Vera Wang dress that feels like a beautiful cage, I'm supposed to be sleeping, dreaming of tomorrow, preparing for my happily ever after. But at 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text that changed everything. We're outside. Please, one last time. My hands trembled as I read those words. I knew that number. I knew what it meant. I knew I should delete the message, turn off my phone, and pretend this night never happened. Instead, I walked to the door. Hello, viewers and listeners. I want to say thank you for stopping by on this story. If you are a returning viewer, welcome once again. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. It's the best way you can support us, and we greatly appreciate it. And if you are new here, thank you for joining us. You picked the right one. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to get our new stories daily. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, let's begin. The knock came at exactly midnight. 3 soft taps, like a secret code. Through the peephole, I saw them standing in the shadows of the porch light. Anthony, tall and lean with those artist hands that once traced poetry across my skin. David, broad-shouldered and steady, the one who taught me that quiet strength could be more powerful than any storm. And Jake, Jake, with eyes like smoke and a smile that could unravel every wall I'd ever built. 3 men, 3 different chapters of my heart. 3 reasons why I should have never opened that door. My fingers found the deadbolt. The metal felt cold against my palm, a final barrier between my old life and whatever waited on the other side. I thought about Richard, probably asleep in his penthouse downtown, dreaming of merger acquisitions and political campaigns. I thought about my parents who would disown me if they knew these 3 men even existed. I thought about the 200 guests who would gather tomorrow to watch me promise my life to someone I respected but had never truly loved. Then I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who painted sunrises on her bedroom ceiling, the one who danced barefoot in thunderstorms, the one who believed that love should feel like lightning, not like settling. That woman, the real me, reached for the door. Anthony spoke first, his voice rough like he'd been rehearsing these words for months. Judith, we know tomorrow changes everything. We know we have no right to be here.
David stepped closer, his presence solid and reassuring in the way that used to calm every storm inside me. But we couldn't let you walk down that aisle without knowing. Without knowing what? I breathed, though part of me already understood. Jake's eyes met mine, and the years collapsed between us like paper walls. Without knowing that you have a choice, that you've always had a choice. The night air wrapped around us, warm and electric with possibility. Behind me, the empty villa stretched like a stage waiting for its final act. Ahead of me, 3 men who had shaped pieces of my soul stood like ghosts of the woman I used to be. Anthony had been my college boyfriend, the poet who showed me that words could be weapons and shields and bridges all at once. We broke up when his dreams led him to New York and mine kept me chained to California. But the way he looked at me now, like I was still his muse, his inspiration, his greatest unfinished poem. David came later, during my rebellious phase, when I tried to prove I could love someone completely different from what my parents expected. He was a carpenter then, building houses with his hands while I built walls around my heart. We ended when I realized I was using him to run from my destiny instead of toward my truth. But standing here now, I remembered why his steady presence had once felt like home. And Jake. Jake was the mistake I never regretted, the secret I never told, the almost that haunted every quiet moment. We met at a gallery opening 3 years ago, both engaged to other people, both drowning in lives that looked perfect from the outside. One night, that's all we had. One night that burned brighter than anything before or since, ending when morning came and reality crashed back in. Now they were here, together. On the night when my choices were supposed to be final. "You can't be here," I said, but the words carried no conviction. My heart was already opening the door, even as my mind screamed warnings. "We know," Anthony said. "We know it's selfish. We know it's too late. But is it?" David's voice was gentle, patient, like he was willing to wait forever for my answer. "Judith, are you happy? Really, truly happy?" The question hit like a physical blow because the answer was written in every fake smile I'd practiced in the mirror. Every night I'd fallen asleep wondering if this was all there was. Every morning I woke up feeling like a stranger in my own life. "I'm getting married tomorrow," I said, as if that was an answer to anything. "To a man you don't love," Jake said softly, and the words hung between us like a challenge. The silence stretched, heavy with truth. In the distance, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds, beautiful and cold. Here on this doorstep, with 3 men who had touched different parts of my soul, the world felt suddenly, impossibly alive. "Why now? Why tonight?" I asked. "Because tomorrow you become someone else's," Anthony said. "Tomorrow the Judith we knew disappears forever." "Because we couldn't live with ourselves if we didn't try," David added. "Because some chances only come once," Jake finished, "and we missed ours the first time." My hand tightened on the door frame. Every rational thought told me to send them away, to protect the life I built, to honor the promises I'd made. But standing there in my silk nightgown, with my wedding dress hanging like a ghost in the room behind me, I felt more myself than I had in months. These men knew me, the real me. Not the polished version my parents had created, not the perfect fiancé Richard had fallen for, but the messy, complicated, passionate woman I kept hidden beneath layers of expectation and duty. "If I let you in," I said quietly, "everything changes. Maybe, or maybe everything finally becomes what it was supposed to be," Anthony said. The choice hung between us like a bridge I could either cross or burn. Behind me lay safety, security, the approval of everyone who mattered. Ahead lay chaos, heartbreak, the kind of night that would either destroy me or set me free. I looked at each of them in turn. Anthony with his poet's eyes and gentle hands, David solid and true and patient as stone, Jake dangerous and beautiful and burning with unspoken promises. 3 different kinds of love, 3 different futures, 3 different versions of the woman I could be. The villa felt enormous behind me, empty rooms echoing with the weight of tomorrow's expectations. But here, in this doorway, with these 3 men who saw past my perfect facade, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. My fingers moved to the chain lock. The sound of metal sliding free seemed to echo through the night. "Stay," I said, so quietly it was barely more than breath. The door closed behind them, sealing us into whatever came next. The silence after the door closed felt like the moment before lightning strikes. 4 people in a room where only one should have been.
The weight of what I'd just done felt so heavy on me. But on the other side of the coin, the guilt was something else, something that felt dangerously close to relief. Anthony moved first, his eyes taking in the wedding chaos around us. Gift boxes stacked like monuments to a future I wasn't sure I wanted. The dress hanging in its plastic shroud, waiting to transform me into someone else's wife. His jaw tightened. Jesus, Judith, look at all this. Don't. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Don't make this about what I'm supposed to want. David stepped between us, his presence a calming force that reminded me why I'd once thought he could be my anchor. We're not here to judge your choices. Aren't you? I turned to face them, these three men who'd invaded the most important night of my life. Then why are you here? Jake leaned against the wall, that infuriating half-smile playing at his lips. Even now, even when my world was crumbling, he looked like he was enjoying the chaos. You know why. The truth hung between us, unspoken but understood. They were here because I'd never really let them go. Because every relationship since had been measured against what I'd felt with each of them. Because tomorrow, I was about to promise forever to a man who would never once made me feel like I was drowning in the best possible way. This is insane, I said, running my hands through my hair. My wedding is in... I glanced at the clock. 18 hours. 18 hours and I'm standing here with the three men you actually loved. Anthony finished quietly. The words hit like a confession I'd never allowed myself to make. Because it was true. I had loved each of them in different ways at different times. Anthony had been poetry and passion, late nights spent reading Neruda by candlelight. David had been safety and strength, Sunday mornings that felt like coming home. Jake had been fire and rebellion, one perfect night that had ruined me for everyone else. Richard had been convenient, expected, safe. You don't get to come here and rewrite history, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. We ended for reasons, good reasons. Did we? David's voice was gentle, patient in that way that used to drive me crazy and calm me down all at once. Or did we end because you were scared? Because your parents made you scared, Anthony added, his poet's insight cutting straight to the bone. Because you thought you had to choose between love and security, like they were mutually exclusive. They were closing in, not physically, but emotionally, each word dismantling the careful walls I built around my heart. I backed away until I felt the cool glass of the window against my spine. Stop, I said. Just stop. But they didn't stop. They couldn't. Because this was our last chance, and we all knew it. Anthony pulled something from his jacket pocket. A folded piece of paper, worn soft at the edges. I still carry this, he said, holding it out to me. The poem you wrote for me junior year, about how love should feel like coming alive. My hands trembled as I took it. I remembered writing those words, remembered believing them with every fiber of my being. When had I stopped believing? When had I started settling for less than lightning? David stepped closer, his presence warm and solid. I never finished the bookshelf I was building for you. It's still in my garage, waiting. Some part of me always thought... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jake was the one who broke me. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping just close enough that I could smell his cologne, could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Do you remember what you said to me that night, 3 years ago? You said you'd never felt so alive. You said you finally understood what all the songs were about. I remembered. God, I remembered everything. The way he looked at me across that crowded gallery. The electricity when our fingers touched reaching for the same glass of wine. The hours we'd spent walking the empty streets, talking about everything and nothing. The moment we'd stop pretending we were just two engaged people being friendly. That was different, I said, but the words sounded hollow even to me. Was it? Or was that the most honest you've ever been? The touch was feather light, barely there, but it sent shockwaves through my entire body. This was what I'd been missing. This fire, this hunger, this feeling of being completely, desperately alive.
Judith, Anthony's voice was rough with emotion. We know we hurt you. We know we let you down. We were young, stupid. We thought we had time. We thought there would be other chances, Jake said, his hand still hovering near my face. We were wrong. The room felt smaller suddenly, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with its actual size. These 3 men, who had each owned pieces of my heart, standing close enough to touch. The air hummed with possibility and danger. What do you want from me? I asked, though part of me already knew. One night, Anthony said simply. One night to remember who you used to be. One night to say goodbye properly, David added. One night to choose yourself instead of everyone else's expectations, Jake finished. They weren't asking me to run away. They weren't demanding I cancel my wedding or upend my entire life. They were asking for something both smaller and larger. Permission to love me. Completely and honestly, for whatever time we had left. The rational part of my brain screamed warnings. This was betrayal. This was selfish. This would destroy everything I'd worked to build. But the woman I used to be, the one who danced in thunderstorms and believed love should feel like lightning, she was clawing her way to the surface, demanding to be heard. If we do this, I said slowly, tomorrow everything changes, not just for me, for all of us. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, Anthony said. Maybe we've all been living half-lives long enough, David added. Jake stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Maybe some things are worth the risk. The wedding dress hung in my peripheral vision, a white ghost of the woman I was supposed to become. But here, surrounded by these 3 men, who had each owned pieces of my heart, I felt more like myself than I had in years. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. I don't know how to love 3 people at once. You already do, Anthony said gently. You always have. The question is whether you're brave enough to admit it, David said. Jake's thumb traced along my jawline, the touch so gentle that made my chest ache. The question is whether you're brave enough to choose yourself, just this once. Time seemed suspended. The clock on the mantel ticked toward dawn, each second bringing my wedding closer. But here, in this moment, surrounded by the 3 loves of my life, time felt negotiable, like maybe we could stretch this night into forever if we just wanted it enough. I looked at each of them in turn. Anthony, whose words had taught me that language could be magic. David, whose steady presence had shown me what safety could feel like. Jake's dangerous smile had awakened parts of me I didn't know existed. 3 different men, 3 different kinds of love, 3 different futures spread out before me like paths in a fairy tale. Okay, I said, the word barely more than breath. One night. The change in the room was instant and electric.
Not rushed, not desperate, but alive in a way that made my skin hum with possibility. These weren't strangers. These were men who had loved me, who knew me, who understood exactly what this night meant. Anthony moved first, crossing to the sound system in the corner. Soft music filled the space, something slow and intimate that reminded me of late nights in his college apartment. David dimmed the lights until the room glowed golden and warm. Jake opened a bottle of wine from the counter, pouring 4 glasses with steady hands. To Judith, Anthony raised his glass. To the woman who taught us what love could be. To tonight. To finally being honest. To choosing yourself, Jake finished, his eyes never leaving mine. We drank, and the wine tasted like permission, like rebellion, like coming home to a version of myself I'd almost forgotten existed. What happened next wasn't rushed or desperate. It was slow, deliberate, sacred in its intimacy. 3 men who loved me, showing me exactly what I had been missing, what I had been denying in myself in the name of duty and expectation.
Anthony touched me like I was poetry made flesh, his hands reverent and gentle. David held me like I was precious, irreplaceable, something to be cherished and protected. Jake looked at me like I was fire, and he'd been cold for years, like touching me might burn him, but he'd gladly take the risk. And I let them. For the first time in years, I let myself be loved completely, honestly, without walls or pretense or fear. The hours blurred together like watercolors in the rain, laughter and tears and moments of perfect silence, conversations that revealed truths I'd buried so deep I'd forgotten they existed. Touch that reminded me I was alive, that I was worthy of passion, that settling was a choice I didn't have to make. I knew this would haunt me tomorrow. I knew every kiss, every caress, every moment of perfect understanding would follow me down that aisle and into my new life. But tonight, wrapped in the arms of the 3 men who had loved me best, I felt more myself than I had since I'd said yes to Richard's proposal. The first hint of dawn crept through the windows, painting the room in shades of gold and pink. Reality was coming, inevitable as sunrise. But for now, for these last precious hours, I was exactly where I belonged. To everyone who was still watching up to this point, I see you and I appreciate you more than words can say. You're not just viewers, you're part of this family we're building. I'd love it if you could help us keep growing by sharing our stories with others, in your Facebook groups, your communities, and even on WhatsApp with your close friends. Each time you share, you're helping more people discover these emotional journeys, and that keeps me inspired to create more for you. Thank you for always being here. Your support is my driving force. Back to our story. I woke to sunlight streaming through curtains I'd forgotten to close, and the devastating realization that I was alone. The villa felt different in daylight, emptier. The wine glasses stood abandoned on the coffee table, lipstick stains on crystal rims, the only proof that last night had been real. The music had stopped hours ago, leaving behind a silence that echoed with ghost touches and phantom kisses. They were gone. Of course they were gone. We'd all known this moment would come, when night surrendered to day, when fantasy gave way to the brutal mathematics of real life. I was getting married in 6 hours. 6 hours to pretend I was the same woman who'd gone to sleep alone the night before. I sat up slowly, my body aching in ways that had nothing to do with physical pain. Every nerve ending felt raw, awakened.
like I'd been sleepwalking for years and suddenly remembered what it meant to be truly alive. My skin still tingled with the memory of their touches, Anthony's reverent caresses, David's protective embraces, Jake's dangerous whispers against my ear. The wedding dress hung exactly where I'd left it, pristine and untouched, a white specter of duty and expectation. Looking at it now felt like staring at a costume for a role I no longer wanted to play. On the nightstand, folded carefully next to my engagement ring, was a piece of paper. My heart lurched as I recognized Anthony's handwriting, elegant and flowing like his poetry. Judith. We didn't say goodbye because we couldn't bear to watch you choose someone else again. Not after last night, not after remembering what we all lost. We love you, all of us, in different ways, for different reasons, but completely and without reservation. That will never change no matter what happens today. We want you to be happy. If that happiness is with Richard, then we'll find a way to live with that. But if last night showed you what we've always known, that you deserve to be cherished, not settled for, then maybe it's not too late. We'll be at the Santa Monica Pier at noon. All of us. If you change your mind, if you decide to choose yourself instead of everyone else's expectations, we'll be there. If not, we understand, and will disappear from your life forever, carrying the memory of one perfect night where you were completely, unapologetically yourself. Whatever you decide, know this: you are magnificent. You are worthy of the kind of love that sets your soul on fire. Don't let anyone convince you to settle for less. Always yours, Anthony, David, and Jake. P.S. The choice was always yours, Judith. It still is.
I read the letter 3 times before the words truly sank in. They were giving me an out, an escape route from a life that looked perfect on paper but felt like suffocating in silk and diamonds. But was I brave enough to take it? My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Car arrives at 2 p.m. Don't be late. The photographers want to capture you getting ready. Another from my maid of honor. OMG, babe, today's the day. Can't wait to see you become Mrs. Whitmore. And finally, one from Richard. Good morning, beautiful. Last night as a single woman. Hope you slept well. Love you. Love. He said he loved me, and I believed he meant it in his own way. But did he love Judith, the rebel who danced in thunderstorms? Did he love Judith, the dreamer who painted sunrises on her ceiling? Did he love Judith, the woman who needed passion like she needed air? Or did he love Yelena, the perfect wife, the suitable choice, the woman who would smile at his fundraisers and never challenge him to be more than he was? I walked to the bathroom mirror, expecting to see guilt written across my face like a scarlet letter. Instead, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Color in my cheeks, light in my eyes, the kind of glow that comes from being truly, completely loved. Last night hadn't been a betrayal. It had been a remembering. I remembered what it felt like to be seen, not as someone's ideal, but as my authentic, complicated, passionate self. I remembered what it felt like to laugh until my stomach hurt, to share secrets that mattered, to feel desire that went deeper than physical attraction. I remembered what it felt like to choose love over safety, truth over convenience, myself over everyone else's expectations. The shower water ran cold by the time I finished crying. By 10 a.m., the villa had transformed into a bridal war room. Hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers, florists, an army of vendors turning me into the perfect bride. They moved around me with military precision, each focused on their piece of the Judith-shaped puzzle. "You look pale, honey," the makeup artist said, dabbing concealer under my eyes. "Wedding nerves?" Wedding nerves. If only it were that simple. Something like that, I managed. My mother arrived like a force of nature, already dressed in her designer suit, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Judith, darling, you look terrible. Did you sleep at all?" "Not much," I admitted. "Well, that's what makeup is for." She surveyed the chaos with satisfaction. "Everything's perfect. The flowers, the music, the cake, even the weather cooperated. You couldn't have asked for a better day to become Mrs. Whitmore." Mrs. Whitmore. The name felt foreign on my tongue, like trying on clothes that belonged to someone else. "Mother," I said carefully, "did you ever doubt before you married Dad?" Her perfectly penciled eyebrows rose. "Doubt? Sweetheart, marriage is not about doubt. It's about making smart choices. Your father was the smartest choice I ever made." "But did you love him? Really love him?" She paused, something flickering across her face too quickly to identify. "Love is a luxury, Judith. Security is a necessity. You'll understand when you're older." Would I? Would I look back on this day in 20 years and be grateful I chose security over passion? Would I watch my daughter prepare for her own wedding and give her the same advice, that love was a luxury she couldn't afford? The thought made me sick. By 11:30, I was alone again. The army of vendors had retreated, leaving behind a vision of bridal perfection. The dress fit like it was made for me, which it was. The makeup was flawless. The flowers were arranged just so. From the outside, I looked like every little girl's princess fantasy come to life. From the inside, I felt like I was dying. My phone sat silent on the vanity. No calls from Richard checking on me, no texts asking if I was nervous or excited or having second thoughts. Just radio silence from the man who was supposed to love me enough to marry me. 11:45. 15 minutes until noon. 15 minutes before Anthony, David, and Jake would be standing on the Santa Monica Pier waiting to see if I was brave enough to choose myself. 15 minutes to decide between the life I'd built and the woman I actually was. I thought about Richard, probably getting ready in his own suite downtown, surrounded by his groomsmen and his family's expectations. He was a good man.
Decent, responsible, everything my parents had raised me to want. He would provide for me, protect me, give me beautiful children and a beautiful life. But he would never love me the way Anthony did, like I was poetry made flesh, worthy of worship and wonder. He would never love me the way David did, steady and true and patient, like coming home to the person who knew your soul. He would never love me the way Jake did, dangerous and consuming, like fire that could burn away everything false and leave only truth behind. Richard loved the idea of me, but did he love me? 11:50. I stared at my reflection, this perfect stranger in white silken diamonds. She was beautiful. She was everything I was supposed to be. She was also a lie. The real Judith was the woman who'd spent last night in the arms of 3 men who loved every complicated, passionate, impossible piece of her. The real Judith was the woman who wrote poetry on bathroom mirrors and cried during sunset and needed love like she needed air to breathe. The real Judith was standing at a crossroads with 2 paths stretching out before her. One led to safety, security, the approval of everyone who mattered. The other led into complete uncertainty, but it also led toward the kind of love that could set souls on fire. 11:55. My hand shook as I reached for my phone. Richard's contact info filled the screen. All I had to do was call him, tell him I was ready, let this day unfold exactly as planned. In 6 hours, I would be Mrs. Richard Whitmore III. In 6 months, I'd probably convince myself I'd made the right choice. But I'd also spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? What if I'd been brave enough to choose love over safety? What if I'd been strong enough to choose myself over everyone else's expectations? What if I'd been honest enough to admit that settling was just another word for giving up? The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the vanity. 11:58. 2 minutes to decide who I wanted to be for the rest of my life. 2 minutes to choose between the woman I was raised to be and the woman I actually was. 2 minutes to decide if love was a luxury I could afford or a necessity I couldn't live without. I looked at the wedding dress one last time. Beautiful, expensive, perfect. Everything I was supposed to want. Then I looked at myself, really looked, and saw the woman who'd painted sunrises on her ceiling, who danced barefoot in thunderstorms, who'd spent one perfect night remembering what it felt like to be completely, unapologetically alive. That woman deserved better than settling. That woman deserved the kind of love that felt like coming home and adventure all at once. That woman deserved to be chosen, not just accepted. 12 o'clock. I made my choice. The text to Richard was short, honest, kinder than he probably deserved, but as gentle as I could make it. I can't marry you. I'm sorry. You deserve someone who loves you the way you need to be loved. I'm not that person. I sent similar messages to my parents, my wedding party, the vendors, apologies, explanations, promises to handle the financial fallout. None of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was the choice I was about to make. I left the wedding dress hanging in the closet and walked out in jeans and a sundress, my engagement ring abandoned on the nightstand like a beautiful burden I was finally ready to put down. The drive to Santa Monica felt like flying. They were there, exactly where they said they'd be. Anthony leaning against the pure railing, David standing solid and patient, Jake pacing like a caged animal. When they saw me walking toward them, the relief on their faces was so profound, it took my breath away. Judith! Anthony reached me first, his hands framing my face like I was something precious he thought he'd lost forever. You came, David said with wonder in his voice. Did you really think I wouldn't? I asked, laughing through tears I didn't remember starting to cry.
Jake's smile was brilliant enough to power the entire city. We hoped, but we know how hard this was. Hard didn't begin to cover it. I'd just blown up my entire life, disappointed everyone who loved me, walked away from security and safety and everything I'd been raised to value. And I'd never felt more certain of anything in my life. I choose me, I said, the words feeling like magic on my tongue. I choose love. I choose all of you and the messy, complicated, impossible life we might build together. Are you sure? Anthony asked. There's no going back from this. I thought about Richard, probably reading my text right now, about my parents, who would disown me before sunset, about the 200 guests who would show up to an empty church, about the perfect life I was walking away from. Then I looked at these 3 men who loved me completely, who saw me exactly as I was and chose me anyway, who offered not security, but something infinitely more valuable, the chance to be authentic, to be myself, to be happy. I choose me, I said, the words feeling like magic on my tongue. I choose love. I choose all of you and the messy, complicated, impossible life we might build together. Are you sure? Anthony asked. There's no going back from this. I thought about Richard, probably reading my text right now, about my parents, who would disown me before sunset, about the 200 guests who would show up to an empty church, about the perfect life I was walking away from. Then I looked at these 3 men who loved me completely, who saw me exactly as I was and chose me anyway, who offered not security, but something infinitely more valuable, the chance to be authentic, to be myself, to be happy. I've never been more certain of anything, I said. What happened next was chaos and beauty and the kind of love that rewrites your entire understanding of what's possible. We didn't have a plan. We didn't know where we'd live or how we'd make it work or what people would say. But we had love, real love.
The kind that doesn't ask you to shrink yourself or settle for less or pretend to be someone you're not. The kind worth risking everything for. 2 years later, I wake up in a house we built together, surrounded by the sounds of the life we chose. Anthony reads me poetry over morning coffee. David's strong hands massage the tension from my shoulders after long days. Jake makes me laugh until my sides hurt, then holds me while I cry through the difficult parts. It's not perfect. Love this complicated never is. But it's real. It's honest. It's ours. And I've never once regretted choosing myself over everyone else's expectations. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is admit you deserve better than settling. Sometimes, love isn't about finding the safe choice. It's about finding the choice that sets your soul on fire. Sometimes, the woman you're meant to be is worth more than the approval of everyone who wants you to be someone else. I chose love. All of it. Every messy, beautiful, impossible piece. And it chose me right back. Here's what I need to know. Have you ever stood at a crossroads where you had to choose between what everyone expected of you and what your heart was screaming for? Have you ever had to decide between safety and the kind of love that could change everything? Because right now, someone reading this is facing that same choice Judith faced, and they need to know they're not alone in feeling torn between duty and desire. Don't just watch the story and scroll away. If Judith's journey moved something inside you, if it reminded you that you deserve to be loved for exactly who you are, then do me a favor. Hit that like button, not just because it helps the channel, but because it tells me you believe love is worth fighting for. Share this story with someone you love, someone who might need to remember that settling is a choice, not an inevitability. Subscribe for more daily stories that will make your heart race and remind you that you deserve the kind of love that sets your soul on fire. Because the next story might be the one that changes your life forever. And I'll be here telling the tales that matter as long as you're willing to listen. I truly appreciate you for listening to this story till the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It makes a huge difference. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you'll never miss the next one. And I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Your words always inspire me to keep creating more for you. See you in the next story.